We were leaving the Danish archipelago behind. Low islands, quiet anchorages, small harbours, where time seemed to slow. Now the course was set west, toward the North Sea. We didn't know it yet, but the weather would force us to decide, at the lock of the Kiel Canal. On our way back to the Netherlands, the first leg led us from Luyö to Kiel. We explored the island with its old farmhouses with thatched roofs, green ponds and trees rustling in the wind. At Luyö's grocery store, we met our neighbours from the sailboat next to us, replenishing their beer supplies. The day was sunny, the air dry, with the wind from the northwest. Under the eyes of our German neighbours, we left the narrow harbour of Luyö. Coelacanth behaved unexpectedly elegant swimming backwards in the crosswinds, which is not always the case, particularly if there is an audience. We tacked our way north to round the island and then fell off in the small belt. The Yankee sail took over from the jib. We were running downwind with 4 to 5 Beaufort in blistering speed, rarely dropping below 8 knots. How easy is sailing when there is fair wind, no tidal currents to plan, and neither freighter traffic nor a TSS to cross. After a few hours sailing from Denmark to Germany, we arrived at the mouth of the Schlei, known for silting and shallow water. We passed the lighthouse on the lonely Lotseninsel with that thirsty pilot that Erskine Childers described so well. We didn't want to hunt ducks, but were rather looking for an anchor spot in what he called this enchanting corner of the world. Thousand years ago, the Schlei and the Eider formed a link between North Sea and Baltic. Vikings settled in Hedeby and controlled the passage, moving goods and ships between two seas. One of Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tales describes ships and trade, but also the shadows of violence and layers of history lying under a quiet landscape. The waters lie sleepily hidden among green reeds, and the brown marshy banks look as if they wish to conceal themselves. In a bay near the village Maasholm, we dropped the anchor in 2 meters of water. We visited the village for a cup of coffee and bought fresh bread, the dark, dense variety so anchored in German culture. We would be glad of this bread later on our journey. At the tiny grocery store with no attendant, we scanned our shopping ourselves before returning to the boat. The weather forecast promised a quiet night. At 9 o'clock sharp, exactly as forecast, the wind dropped from 5 to 3, then 2 before. Nevertheless, our French neighbour boat dragged her anchor and nearly stranded between the trees at the shore. After a swim in the cold water, we enjoyed dinner in the cockpit and let the day pass in memory. Then we turned in for a good night of sleep. The day was sunny again. The wind came from the east at 4 to 5 Beaufort. Ideal conditions for the leg from Maasholm to Kiel. We passed the German Navy ship and soon reached the lighthouse that marks the entrance of the Kieler Förde. Planing dinghies crisscrossed our course, traditional sailing ships passed, and the occasional freighter moved slowly ahead to the Kiel Canal. We moored at the jetty in Holtenau, just next to the lock into the Kiel Canal. We had an appointment to keep, a meeting with the designer of our windvane to collect missing parts for our self-steering. The windvane parts were collected, several anecdotes too. A look at the wind forecast confirmed. There was only a short weather window to sail westward. The small high-pressure area would soon be gone. And we still had the Kiel Canal to cross, 53 miles of motoring. After living easy in the Baltic, the need for planning when to sail was back. It was time to make a decision. Would we make it to the North Sea to catch the easterly winds, forecast to last perhaps 48 hours at best? Could we pass the canal in time for the strong tide of River Elbe flowing into the North Sea? After that, it would be headwinds for a week, and only racers and idiots sail upwind.